My total annual fees have ballooned over the past couple of months to $3,743, a number I never thought I'd be paying for credit cards. But if those cards are actually providing me positive value year after year, that upfront cost might be completely justified. So in this video, I'm breaking down my current travel credit card strategy, including how I'm actually using each travel credit card in my setup and whether or not they're going to be sticking around, and exactly how I plan to redeem all 8 points currencies that I'm currently earning in. First up, the Chase Sapphire Reserve. This has been my go-to travel credit card over the past couple of years, and I know a lot of people really dislike the refresh that was made to it, which honestly, I don't blame you for. But fortunately, for my use case, my effective annual fee on this card is actually lower than it was in the past, so I really can't complain. On the benefit side, at least specific to traveling, here's what I'm actually using. $500 in edit credits, which we'll talk about more in a second, $300 in annual travel statement credits, $300 in dining credits, which I can easily use living in downtown Austin, Texas, $300 in StubHub credits, and to be fair, I haven't actually used these yet, but my girlfriend and I do go to at least a concert or comedy show every 6 months, so should be pretty easy to use. At least $60 per year in Lyft credits, the $120 worth of global entry or TSA PreCheck credits every 4 years, Chase Sapphire Lounge access, and a Priority Pass Select membership, which both include free guest access for my girlfriend, which is huge, IHG Platinum Elite status, and sometimes the DoorDash perks just here and there. All of that alone, again, specific to like what we do when we travel, puts me at over $1,500 in value on a $795 annual fee card, which I'll take all day. Then if you layer in the earning rates of 8x back on Chase Travel, 5x on Lyft, and 4x back directly with hotels, and you can see exactly why I like this card so much. But going back to those edit credits for just a second here, this is where I think a lot of people are casting a bit too much judgment and could maybe actually be getting more value from it than they think. Yes, I know that portal pricing can be inflated and a lot of times is. There aren't a ton of edit properties. The credit is split biannually, and you need a 2-night minimum stay to actually use the credits. Those are all very fair criticisms. But even with those, I still personally get outsized value for 2 main reasons. First is that you get added benefits by booking through the edit collection, like a $100 property credit, daily breakfast for 2, early check-in, late checkout, room upgrades, and more. And second, you can actually stack the edit credit and redeem Chase points at up to a 2 cent per point rate through the portal. Even after the recent nerfs that dropped a lot of the edit redemption rates to around 1.65 cents per point, that combination of the edit credit plus being able to redeem your points at boosted rates through the portal delivers a ton of value, and you can't get that elsewhere. I actually made a full members only video recently showing how I basically wiped my entire Chase Sapphire Reserve annual fee with just a single 2-night staycation. So definitely check that out if you haven't yet and you want that more like in-depth breakdown. While we're talking about travel, I want to show y'all something that I use every day, whether I'm at home or I am traveling, and that is my toothbrush from Suri. I'll be honest with y'all, my old electric toothbrush was really annoying. Like it constantly needed charging, the cord was cluttering my sink like crazy, and traveling with it was so much of a pain that I actually wouldn't even bring it. Suri completely fixed that for me though. First off, the battery on this thing lasts over a month, so I'm not thinking about charging it really ever. The brush itself is super slim, aluminum, and just looks really clean in the bathroom, especially with the magnetic mirror mount, which keeps everything organized and cable free. It's also dentist approved, powerful but gentle, has a pressure sensor so you don't overdo it, and the brush heads are plant-based, which I love. When I travel, the UVC travel case is super clutch, keeping everything hygienic without bulking up my toiletry bag like my last toothbrush. Overall, upgrading to Suri has been one of those like small upgrades that has meaningfully impacted my day-to-day, whether I'm traveling or at home. So if it's something that you want to try out, be sure to use the link in my description and code Spencer15 to get a 15% discount off of your purchase. And you'll see exactly why I love it so much. Okay, let's get back into it. Card number 2 now is a new addition to my setup via product change, but it is the Amex Business Platinum. And you can see I haven't even unboxed this one yet, but it's part of the setup now. Honestly, I really did not expect to have the Business Platinum in my setup right now, but I've become really excited about what it could unlock for my future travels. And matter of fact, I actually just recently wrote a full newsletter on this. So if you want more context on what I'm about to provide and don't want to miss out on future emails, you can sign up for that through the link in my description. Since this is a brand new credit card for me though, I don't have any historical data to say how much value I'll likely get, but based on my redemption plans, I expect to use the full $600 worth of hotel credits, $200 in airline credits, $209 towards Clear Plus, which I have already activated and am looking forward to using, possibly some of the Hilton credits, but definitely not all, Amex Centurion Lounge, and I guess just broader Amex Global Lounge Collection access. Unfortunately, though, that's without any guest access, so that's a big negative to me. Hilton Gold status, and the 35% points rebate feature, which we'll talk more about in the redemption habits section of this video. Like I mentioned in the wild watch me apply video for this card, a big part of the reason that I got it in the first place was to see whether or not it, or more likely the personal Amex Platinum card, could ever replace my Chase Sapphire Reserve. Obviously, paying $795 for the Sapphire Reserve and $895 for the Business Platinum or the Personal Platinum is not cheap. And while I'm pretty sure I could get positive value from both, technically, like every year, I do not want to add that much complexity to my setup. Managing the credits on just one of them is all I really want to handle right now. So realistically, one of these is probably going to end up leaving my setup after this year, or technically maybe both, because I would want to get the personal version of the Platinum instead of the business long term, but that's a topic for another time. Since the Chase Sapphire Reserve and Amex Platinum are so similar in so many different ways, one of the biggest comparisons that I want to make between them is Chase's Edit Collection versus Amex's Fine Hotels and Resorts. Even before booking my first Fine Hotels and Resorts stay, I'm really drawn to the larger portfolio that they have, and the benefits of the Fine Hotels and Resorts program are very similar to the Edit, including a $100 property credit, early check-in, late checkout, daily breakfast for two, room upgrades, and more. But at the same time, what I do think I'm going to have a hard time getting away from is the fact that Chase has that edge when it comes to the ability to redeem points at a boosted rate through the portal to offset the rest of my booking cost. That's just not something you can do with Amex. So I'm going to be stuck paying more out of pocket for FHR stays than Edit stays, and that's not fun. On the contrary, though, I technically might not need to pay that much out of pocket because I can use the Platinum's hotel credit for just a one-night stay at an FHR property. So that opens up my options quite a bit compared to the 2-night minimum with the Edit Collection and Chase. Both programs clearly have their pros and cons. So while I await my first FHR stay, I'm definitely curious to know where you land. So if you've tried out both of the programs before, definitely let me know your thoughts in the comments. The only other major difference between them in my eyes is the lounge access, with the Platinum having access to the Amex Global Lounge Collection and the Chase Sapphire Reserve having Chase Sapphire lounges. But as y'all know, if you've watched my channel for a while, lounge access is not a mandatory perk for me to have. I kind of consider it more as like a nice add-on, but it's not something I would ever pay out of pocket for. So that's going to impact my effective annual fee way less than the difference between the hotel credits and those programs. As far as earning rates go, the Business Platinum really won't see any everyday spend outside of the upgrade offer that I'm spending towards right now. Like, that's not what this card is known for. But I will, of course, use it for any Amex travel bookings for a full 5x back, and also for any direct flight bookings at 5x as well. Overall, I'm really looking forward to seeing how much I actually use and enjoy this card, especially, benefits that I've never had before, like Clear Plus, Hilton Gold status, and that 35% points rebate feature that we'll cover more in a bit. Card number 3 is another new addition to my setup that I still haven't unboxed yet either, the Bilt Palladium. Realistically, I value this much less as a travel card and more so as like an everyday points earner. That said, it does have one main credit that I really need to get value from to offset its $495 annual fee, and that is the $400 in Bilt travel hotel credits. As I talked about in my Bilt card comparison video, this is honestly one of the credits that I'm looking forward to using the least out of all of my cards, and that's because it's split semi-annually, once again, into $200 chunks. It requires a 2-night minimum stay, and obviously has to be used through Bilt's travel portal. None of that is new to us at this point, but compared to the Edit credit on the Sapphire Reserve and the hotel credit on the Amex Platinum card, this one is not only more restrictive, but also has a lower ceiling of value. So yeah, not a fan of that. Similar to that Amex Business Platinum, of course, I don't have any experience with this credit yet, but we do know that you can stack it with not only Bilt Cash, but also the 25% points boost through the portal to get added value. And also, if you have Bilt Gold status, which new Palladium card holders like me will get if you hit the welcome offer, you also get added benefits through the Home Away from Home collection that mirrors a lot of what you see with Edit and Fine Hotels and Resorts. I don't think that year one is going to be very difficult to justify at all, especially when you take into account the 50,000 point welcome offer plus gold status after $4,000 spent in 3 months and the $300 worth of Bilt Cash on top of that. So the real question is how this card holds up in future years, and that's just what I'm going to have to feel out. After year one, one, I'm no longer going to have that gold status. I'm going to max out at silver status every year. So that removes all the added benefits of the home away from home collection. And that's going to move that hotel credit lower on my priority list than really any others. Like I said, though, outside of that hotel credit, this card's going to be an absolute points printer for me, earning an effective 3.33x on every dollar spent. And while it does include priority pass access, that's not going to move the needle for me at all, since I already have that covered with my Chase Sapphire Reserve. There's definitely a lot more to unpack with this card over time, especially as I start actually using the benefits. So make sure you're subscribed if you want to follow along with how this one plays out. Card number 4 actually isn't a transferable currency card this time. It's a hotel card, the Ritz-Carlton. At $450 per year, just like all high annual fee cards, it comes with a long list of benefits, but the only ones that actually matter to me are the $300 in airline credits, Marriott Gold status, and the 85,000 point free night certificate. Those three alone are going to give me well over $1,000 in value every single year, which easily wipes the annual fee and then some. And that's why this card has quickly become a staple in my wallet, even though it's almost solely focused on just Marriott stays. Funny enough, these days, most people who want the Ritz card are focused on something completely different though, and that is its lounge access. Effectively, this card is going to give you the same lounge access as the Chase Sapphire Reserve, including Chase Sapphire lounges and Priority Pass with 2 guests. But obviously, since I already have the Sapphire Reserve, I don't count that as any added value to this card right now. There is the potential for it to add a lot of value to my setup though over time if I do decide to downgrade that Chase Sapphire Reserve in place of like the personal Amex Platinum, especially with the generous guest policies on the Ritz, which Amex doesn't have. But yeah, we don't really know if that's going to happen at this point. As far as earning goes though, I really only use this card to give me 6x back on any Marriott purchases. So whenever I stay at a Marriott property, this is the card that I put down at check-in. And if I charge any dining or incidentals to the room, everything is going to route through the Ritz to give me that 6x. Bottom line with this card, I know that I can easily get positive value from it every year, even if I just use the 85,000 point free night certificate on it, not to mention the Marriott Gold status and $300 airline credit. So it's definitely been an exciting addition to the setup over the past few months, and I'm looking forward to using it much more heading into 2026. So far, we've only covered 4 cards with a combined annual fee of $2,635, which sounds wild, but those are not the only travel cards in my setup. I also have a handful of mid-tier cards, which I want to cover really quickly here since, they're not quite as exciting, but still important. First up is the Citi Strata Premier, and this is the card that I currently use for any non-Costco grocery spend, so it produces a decent amount of points annually, but its main purpose in my setup is giving me access to Citi's transfer partners. The biggest one that I care about out of their list is American Airlines, which is why I've intentionally switched more spend onto not only my Citi Strata Premier, but my custom cash as well this year. At just $95 per year, I really never stress about the annual fee on it because the transfer partner access more than covers it. And matter of fact, I've actually had this card for a couple of years now, and I've never used the $100 hotel credit on it. So yeah, goes to show how much I value the transfer partner access instead. Next is the Southwest Priority. After the recent refresh to all the Southwest cards, this one now costs $229 per year, and I'm honestly not convinced that it's worth that price anymore. But I was, lucky enough to have my annual fee renew this month at just $149 for some reason. So I'm going to keep it open for now and utilize all of its benefits in combination with the companion pass that I have. The main benefits that I care for are the 7,500 anniversary points, preferred seating at booking, extra legroom seat upgrades, upgraded boarding, and a few other smaller things. But even with all of that, since I'll need to re-earn the companion pass later this year, I'll likely end up canceling the priority and reopening it in about 6 months or so. Then after that, I have a combo of 2 credit cards that I'm almost certain I'll be canceling soon, the Alaska Business and the Hawaiian Business cards. Honestly, I really only got these 2 for their welcome offers, and I don't think I've touched them since. While I do use their Atmos rewards points for American Airlines flights fairly often, I almost never fly with Alaska or Hawaiian directly, so the benefits on those cards are basically nullified. So yeah, once I get rid of those this year, that'll be a nice little savings off of my total annual fees. But yeah, we got a long ways to go with that. Okay, so at this point, we have a really solid understanding of how I use each of my main travel credit cards, but the bigger question is how I actually use the points currencies themselves. First things first, from just the credits alone across those cards we talked about, I already have about $1,500 worth of hotel credits, $500 in airline credits, $300 in general travel credits, and an 85,000 point free night certificate that I can use every year. That's roughly like $3,500 worth of travel already spoken for before I redeem a single point. So yeah, that takes up a decent chunk of my travel, but I still have 8 different points currencies that I can pull from to supplement the rest. Since I started my credit card journey, it's been no secret that Chase Ultimate Rewards have been my number one points to earn. They just fit my travel habits incredibly well as a mostly domestic economy traveler, and I primarily use the points in two ways. First is transferring one-to-one to Hyatt hotels, or second, and more frequently, booking through the Chase travel portal at a boosted rate. As a legacy Chase Sapphire Reserve cardholder, I still get the old 1.5 cent per point redemption rate on all my points earned before the refresh, on top of up to 2 cent per point redemptions through the portal like we talked about with the edit collection earlier. Because of that, and the fact that most domestic airline currencies have an average point value less than 1.5 cents per point, my Chase points are mostly reserved for domestic flights. Every once in a while, though, I will transfer directly to Hyatt, depending on how many points I have with the next currency, which is Bilt Rewards. Over the past couple of years, I've almost solely used my Bilt Rewards points for Hyatt stays because that's who I stay with the most, and their points valuations are consistently high. That said, I now have so many more hotel credits than I used to, so the burden on my Bilt points to carry all of my hotel bookings is going to lighten up quite a bit, which I'm a huge fan of. Also, I don't forget that, Bilt has some amazing airline partners too, like Atmos Rewards and Japan Airlines. So I'm not strictly married to Hyatt, but that's the most natural use case for me right now. In reality, I kind of think of my Bilt points as an extension of my Chase points. So again, they're mainly functioning as a domestic focused currency, which I absolutely love because that's how I'm traveling most of the time. Next up are Amex membership rewards points. Because Amex doesn't have many strong domestic partners, or at least ones that fit my natural travel habits, I tend to save these almost exclusively for high-end international flights. My girlfriend and I usually only take about one of these trips per year, but of course, flying in high class, that one trip can burn a lot of points, so the usage rate of my Amex points ends up being somewhat similar to Chase and Bilt, which I'm using a lot more frequently, but at lower costs. I generally think of Amex as part of like a 1-2-3 punch, I guess, with Chase and Bilt, but reserved specifically for international trips while keeping Chase and Bilt focused on the domestic ones. A massive update to my Amex strategy, though, which kind of turns what I just said on its head a bit, is the Business Platinum's 35% points rebate feature that I've casually mentioned a couple of times. For those that haven't heard of this before, with the American Express Business Platinum card, when you book eligible flights with your selected airline through Amex Travel using Pay with Points, American Express is going to rebate 35% of the membership rewards points back to your account after the booking is completed. Boiling it down to a base level here, this effectively increases the value of your Amex membership rewards points through their portal from 1 cent per point to about 1.54 cents per point on all qualifying airfare. While that valuation is not exciting for those of you who are always flying, international, business, or first class, for those of us who mostly travel domestically in economy, this is really exciting. And for me, it's going to, once again, take off a ton of pressure from my Chase points this year, particularly for any American Airlines flights or maybe Delta flights, whichever I just end up flying more and select as my qualifying airline. After that are Capital One Venture Miles, and this one's going to be short but sweet. I use these almost identically to Amex points, at least before that 35% points rebate feature was introduced to my setup. Venture Miles are strictly reserved for those high-end international redemptions, and I always try to burn these before touching my Amex points since I don't value them as high. Then we come to Citi ThankYou points, which, as we discussed earlier, right now I'm mainly stockpiling these almost entirely for potential transfers to American Airlines down the line. But since my Amex points can now be used at 1.54 cent per point for American Airlines flights, if that's the airline I select for that rebate feature, there's actually no urgency to burn my Citi points. So I imagine 2026 is mainly going to be focused on just earning them and not redeeming them. Lastly, I have a few brand specific currencies, including Southwest Rapid Rewards, Atmos Rewards, and Marriott Bonvoy points. And these are all pretty straightforward since they can only be used with their respective ecosystems. But the two big things worth noting here are that first, with Southwest, I have the Southwest Companion Pass, which cuts the points needed for flights with my girlfriend in half, or in other words, basically doubles the value of my Southwest points whenever I'm traveling with her. And that's massive. I'm almost always trying to fly Southwest because of that fact. So yeah, that's where I'm leaning most of the time. And second, I transferred 200,000 Amex points to Hawaiian, which I then transferred to Alaska back when that was still possible. That way I could book American Airlines flights with those points. So when you combine that with the welcome offers on the Alaska and Hawaiian business cards, I have about 300,000 points on the sideline ready to be used for American Airlines flights at any time. So yeah, that actually even further decreases my need to redeem Citi points and reinforces the fact that I probably won't be using any of those this year. Now, at this point, if you want to see exactly how I utilized a lot of these strategies last year to book over $25,000 in free travel, which still sounds insane to me, click into this video next. And as always, Odin and I both really appreciate you watching this video. If you enjoyed it, consider leaving a like and subscribing to the channel and using my links in the description, and we'll catch you guys next time.